In preparation to install our transmission, we need to install our transmission mounting plate. It looks just like this. And when you install it, it goes convex side down, and the cutout will go towards the primary side. So we're going to put that in, and this is the one exception. We're leaving the engine and transmission loose, but the mounting plate needs to be tight. So we'll get this hardware in. It's going to be 4 bolts. Lock them down so it doesn't move anywhere, and then we can install our transmission. Okay, that's not going anywhere. So with the transmission mounting plate in place, we're going to go grab our transmission. Okay, here's our transmission. I suggest if you have a clutch cable on it already, just try and keep it tight and out of your way. It can be a little cumbersome. I'm going to grab our transmission, go ahead and set it in its spot. Excellent, that's right where we want it. Now you can go ahead and loosely put in the mounting nuts. Just like the engine, we're going to want to have the transmission in there kind of loose. The reason being we want it to be able to move around so we can align it and make sure all of our drivetrain lines up correctly. All right, that's good enough for now. Now we can go ahead and install our primary. But before we do that, I'm actually going to put our final drive chain onto our sprocket from the transmission, just so we can line up the rear wheel later on. So I'll just loosely roll that in there. Then I'm going to take a little bit of grease and put it on the transmission main shaft, just so when I slide the bearing over, it'll kind of ease it on over. Then I'm going to take our primary, or inner primary, and slide it on over the transmission and engine case. Now from here, up until now, we did all of our hardware loose for the engine and transmission. For the primary, we're actually going to tighten it. We want to make sure the engine and transmission line up to the primary and all the holes are aligned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of anti-seize on the hardware and then install it. Now you don't have to go full torque on these, which is 20 foot-pounds. You just want to tighten it up so there's no slack or no free play in these bolts. Okay, now I'm just going to tighten these up. Okay, I've got all the fasteners tight to the engine. Now we're going to go over to the transmission and make sure everything kind of falls into place. We just want to make sure the transmission can make its way over to the primary without binding or any pulling of any type. We just want to make sure all the surfaces can seat together without having to force them by the hardware. Okay, the transmission hardware is all tight. What I'm going to do now is just back off the hardware and make sure the transmission stays in the exact same spot we just tightened it up to. And what that's going to tell me is that it will freely sit where we want it, and there's no binding of any type that's causing it to pull the primary or transmission in an area we don't want it to be. We just want it to be free sitting. And it looks good, so I'm just going to tighten these back up. Okay, that's tight. Now we can keep moving.